Well, let's get all the gas out of the way and hopefully not take too long with this, but Monday Night Raw took place again this week, and WWE's hot.
Boy,
It's the hottest it's been in forever. And some of these shows are just nothing happening. Nothing at all. I'm still intrigued to see what will happen, but nothing seems to happen sometimes. And, well, we'll talk about Raw rather briefly, hopefully.
yes, well, the big stories, 14,300 people in Raleigh. Jim Crockett in the glory days never did that. Raleigh was the Dorton Arena could only hold about, I think, probably 7,000, I believe, and we sold that out a couple of times. That Bash show and whatever, but that's amazing. And as you said, they're coming and buying these tickets and leaving the house and going to watch live renditions of dramatic readings and confrontations between individuals that lead to something that they're not going to see for goddamn weeks at this point. And they're doing it. Are you thrilled? We won't give too many blow by blows here, but we're going to talk about the business of it. Are you thrilled and excited and on the edge of your seat to see Jimmy Uso versus Jey Uso?
No. However, there really is nothing else for them to do that makes sense. I'm more excited for the story than I am for the match or any physical. Like, I want to see what's going to happen, but I'm not a big fan of their matches.
Well, and also remember, I think we did a dissertation on this last year sometime when they were yet again teasing the eventual breakup of the bloodline. And I said, I believe I said, because I haven't listened to it, but I remember saying that one of these guys may take off and one of these guys may suffer, but it's going to be hard for both without this particular story. It's hard to do the brother versus brother. And now the thing is, they're just down to, one saying, I miss you. We don't talk. We don't ride. We don't see each other. Come back to me. I never left. It was your idea to leave the bloodline. And there is kind of the element of Jimmy saying Jay went off and became a big star selling merchandise, but it was all because of me. It was all because of me. And it
was all because of Stephen P. New. Yeet.
Well, yeet. Because that's when Jay said the biggest moment's going to be me versus you, and I'll knock yeet out your ass. Trademark. It took forever. My thoughts were, I'm not sure I'm into this. Maybe I read the recap and it sounded better than it did live because it took so long to get there. But they have to do it. But and again, we don't get excited about their matches. We get excited about the stories that they're in, but not necessarily the ones that revolve around them. But anyway, Jay shoved Jimmy, and Jimmy and Solo got Jay down, and Cody hit. At least they didn't play his music. He just ran down and cleaned house. Because, now it's just let Cody beat up everybody. Because that's what they need to do, and he's doing it, and talk. And that's, but at least Cody got some fucking glory at the end there. But otherwise, that was the opening segment. And then there was an addendum to the dramatic reading on stage when in the back Adam Pearce was yelling at Aldous on the phone about his guys coming to his show, and Heyman came in and said it wasn't authorized. Jimmy and Solo went into business for themselves. I've had flight delays. Look, I'm not even wearing makeup. You couldn't really tell the difference. I thought his Undertaker makes him up every morning when he gets up out of bed.
Oh, come on. He was even looking good here. It looks like he's lost a few pounds.
Looking good? What?
He looks like he's lost a few pounds, I think. He looks like he's gotten into better shape.
A few pounds? Paul could lose a few pounds off his eyelids.
Oh, come on.
I'm just saying, but anyway, he promised that Uso and Solo have gone from the arena and Paul's going to handle his business tonight and he's going to leave too. And that was, the way we opened, and there we were. Any thoughts before we move on?
Not much to say other than, despite what you say and what I may feel about the segment, the fans there were happy with the pacing, it seemed, and with what was said or not said or what happened that didn't happen. I guess they're just happy they got a moment like the surprise appearance of Solo and Jimmy. But this still ties into the bloodline. That's the thing that keeps this whole angle afloat. Or, keeps this match going.
Yeah.
Or makes it mean anything. We'll see what happens after that.
And as you said, the people are enjoying it. We're not saying they're not. And for all the people who say, "Oh, he hates AEW, but he puts WWE over," well, they're making money. I put him over for that, but these shows are a slog. And if you put these live events in front of people who bought tickets to see Raw during the Attitude Era, or if you put it in front of people who bought tickets in the 80s to see Crockett Promotions, there'd be a fucking riot, wouldn't there? You saw some of those crowds.
Yeah, and it's funny considering the building they were in. That the crowd was so into it.
Yeah, it's just so slowly and talky. But anyway, let's dissect a match for a moment. The Creed brothers against Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Sameface. And I'm trying to watch the Creeds to change my opinion, because I understand that people in the company have been high on them because of their athletic ability, and I understand that. And in OVW, we had a variety of high-level athletes, especially in the early years, from grappling it or MMA or, bless him, Brian Keck. They were great athletes in their field that they had excelled in previously, but they weren't natural workers, and it didn't translate either much of the nuances physically, or because maybe they hadn't been fans, or even if they had been fans, they didn't study it for what it was. It didn't translate to them knowing how the shit was supposed to look and doing it in the ring. And you could work out stuff in class with them where it moves, where they could use their athleticism and show their strength or their agility or whatever. I mean, there's endless varieties of those. But what you couldn't do was have them put it all together at a string along with the basics. The basics seem to be the trouble spot with some shooters or legitimate athletes from other endeavors. And they couldn't put it together where it made sense with what they were doing, or they were somewhat stop and start with their motions or whatever. So I'm not, these guys do have some potential, I think, especially the taller one as I watch them more, but they shouldn't be on national television. They should be, I hate to say it, not NXT, because they'd be on goddamn national television. You can't hide a motherfucker in developmental anymore. The first couple of years in OVW, they didn't want us to fucking syndicate our TV any further because they didn't want anybody to see these motherfuckers at all. And now they're putting them on national TV when they still ought to be in a fucking rec center somewhere putting in repetitions. So the announcers are smashing their amateur backgrounds over because that's their calling card and that's the way they're dressed. And unfortunately, I think that's part of their downfall, because they look nerdy as fuck. And they don't look like Rick Steiner and Mike Rotunda did in goddamn amateur singlets. They look like Wally and Beaver, don't they? And they're not smooth, and they're green, and they should be hidden somewhere. It looks to me, I would say these guys are at a 4-month wrestling school level right now. And I know they've been in NXT a lot longer than that. So and everybody trying to showcase their athleticism is being too complicated and trying to have them do shit that's too complicated. And it looks rough. They should be going for a degree of difficulty of 5, an execution of 10 instead of the opposite. But Ciampa and Same Face were trying, but I don't know what they're doing here with these guys on national television right now. Can you disagree with any of the things I just said?
I don't know what they're doing with their tag team division on national television right now. That's the one big thing that Vince McMahon killed. That let's see how Paul Levesque treats it. Right now, they don't have the teams. And they try to put them out there. And when you have multi-team matches and gauntlet matches, I don't think it really helps anyone. But DIY, they're trying. They're trying really hard. If like the Rockers were 40 and going bald, they'd be DIY. I don't know what. Like they're trying to be like a youthful tag team. Look at them. And then you have the Creeds who are physically impressive and as bland as 1983 Bob Backlund. I mean, the tag team division is a problem. But let's see how it develops over time. It's just crazy when you think about the rich history, even there, in the 80s and 90s, of tag teams, and that is nothing. There's nothing of any value.
Now somebody's going to get mad because we said these people are of no value.
That's not, as tag teams, nothing's clicking, nothing's working. There isn't a tag team that's super over.
No, I think there's also several people there that just have no value as human beings. But anyway, so finally at 9 o'clock, here comes our savior to save us from, and there was a girls' tag team match and a SmackDown Rock recap. But then at 9 o'clock, as I said, here comes Cody. And before I even talk about what he said and did, and this may lead into another topic we're going to have to talk about the horrible double standard that The Rock is exerting over the WWE. He's holding them hostage. Did you have the ratings? You sent them to me. That's how I knew about it. Can you pull up the ratings for Monday Night Raw for the episode? And by the way, we didn't even date this thing, March 18th. But I want to illustrate who the most over babyface in fucking wrestling is right now.
Jim, I have the quarter-hour ratings right here. These are from WrestleNomics. And just to give an example, the quarter you just recapped, the Candice LeRae, Indy Hartwell versus Katana Chance and Caden Carter. And then SmackDown recap and an ad break quarter. That did 1.7 million viewers.
And right there, the worst that WWE can present doubles Dynamite. Go ahead.
And that's also above the trend line. We've been talking about that lately for AEW programming. This is above the trend line significantly. And then quarter 5, 9 to 9:15 p.m., Cody Rhodes' promo, confrontation with Paul Heyman, and then Nia Jax's backstage promo, 1.96 million viewers.
They gained almost 300,000 people for Cody's quarter. And that
should be the segment. Welcome to Cody's Quarter.
Cody's Corner. Or Cody's Quarter. Or Cody's Corner Quarter. But and that was the high point of the show, correct? Cody has become the Raw version of The Rock on SmackDown.
It was the high point of the show in terms of quarter hours, but also for the key demo. Before it was 739,000 18 to 49-year-old males, and then it went to 841.
And so, anyway, now Cody did not even ask us what we wanted to talk about. Because he was serious, because Rock had fucking dug into him on SmackDown, as everyone heard, and talked about his mama. And Cody said, The Rock says he's our favorite heel. Well, I've known some heels. And Heenan and Arn Anderson, Billy Graham and Ric Flair. And he said, Rock, you're not a heel. You're an asshole. And he came back with a promo where you make fun of me for crying, talking about giving my mother a championship belt, but haven't you been crying behind the scenes to the board of directors the whole time? And he basically buried Rock for being a backstage politician and his bid for the main event backfiring, and put him over as a star, but called him a carny succubus and a whiny bitch and a terrible salesman.
And your old job.
Well, there you go. He's taken over. And then he brought up the Rock's mom. You brought up my mom. I know your mom. She's a wonderful lady. I have respect for her, and you should return that to the perfect baby face line. And makes Rock look like a fucking asshole. And then I need to know more details on exactly the story of Michelle beating up an undercover cop at a Willie Nelson concert.
That's a weird thing to drop. Yeah, I know. That was a weird thing to just throw in there I've never heard before.
Yeah, but a weird thing to make up, too. So I'd like to hear more. But anyway, that's where, he started asking Rock if he's sure of himself. You haven't been in a ring in years. Are you going to have BDE, Big Dwayne Energy, or LDS, Little Dick Syndrome? And got a big pop for that. Because they're finally recognizing as TKO as a company. Well, maybe not finally. Maybe many people have recognized all along that the only thing that that they haven't been doing that they goddamn needed to do badly since the Attitude Era is actually appeal to a few adults with some shit instead of bleeping. When you bleep shit. I always stuck with the dictionary rule. If a word is in the dictionary, it ought to be allowed to be spoken on television by the FCC. That's how I was able to get away with fornicator on USA Network. It's biblical.
But it may not be the FCC's actual rule, though.
Well, the FCC or the networks or the various standards and practices use the dictionary rule. If it's in the dictionary, it can't be goddamn obscene. Find me an obscene word in the dictionary. I'm waiting. Read the whole thing.
You're going to keep waiting.
All right, anyway. So then Cody said that Rock, referring to the final boss, hey, kudos to Brian Gerwitz for that. And but at WrestleMania, you're not going to be the final boss. You're just going to be Roman Reigns' side chick. And boom goes the dynamite. And then here comes, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul. I shouldn't wear pinstripe suits, Heyman. And he waddled to the ring with the microphone in a suit made from a circus tent from I know a lot of the circuses are folding these days, Brian. Going out of business. They've had wholesale sales of their equipment, like their tents and everything, and Paul's Taylor got almost a brand new one, it looked like. Hello?
Yes, I'm listening.
Yes. Anyway, are you just going to sleep on me?
I'm going to sleep on Raw. No,
okay.
I mean, I don't know how many times I can try to get you to stop personally assaulting with words Paul Heyman. He's done nothing to you in many years. He's a different person now than he was when he cost all of his wrestlers all their money.
He's two different people now than he was 30 years ago. Anyway, and Paul again, a tremendous performance. I offer an apology to you. My plan 3 weeks ago sucked with the NYPD police officers. His ankle with the officers sucked. He said it didn't work, and I apologize. And Cody's no Hall of Famer. Paul, come on in the ring. But Paul would stay on the apron. And basically, they did the challenge for another confrontation on Friday Night SmackDown. This time, Roman's going to go face-to-face with Cody, and no Bloodline members will be involved except Paul. And you have Roman's word, if you show up alone, then he will too, except for me. And Cody says deal, and Paul again asks for Cody's word that he'll be alone, and Cody says deal, and he shakes Paul's hand. So now the mystery about this interview is who's going to actually show up, right? And is there someone else that's not a member of the Bloodline? Or is somebody on Cody's side going to break the deal and call, what the fuck is, it's not a match. It's not really anything you can advertise and sell tickets to on a show. It's just, again, another an interview hyping another interview that will do a massive quarter-hour rating on network television.
I think Cody has to be careful. He's starting to get a little too workshoppy in his promos again. I mean, first of all, before anything else, any issues with how inside he was talking, for lack of a better term?
No, because he even said that. And it makes sense to, if he, what was the term he used? He said, this is kind of inside the heels and the baby faces. Or he didn't even say baby, he said heels.
Heels. Talked about heels, talked about Gewurz being his writer.
Well, he didn't say your writer, Brian Gerwitz. He said, kudos to Brian Gerwitz for that one. Well, that's what I'm talking about when you talk to both audiences. The other audience might not know, but he said, hey, I'm talking inside here with some of these terms. So now people understand, okay, if I'm just watching a TV show instead of one of these fucking lunatics like Cornette and Last that watch all this shit and fucking follow everything, then they've already told me I don't know what he's talking about, but I'm following the story because he's telling me a story that if I just understand English, I can follow too. It's not predicated on referring to inside things that few people know as the crux of your goddamn bone of contention. That's still the universal title and finish in the story. And The Rock standing in the way being a movie star. But since they apparently now are cornering the market on smart fans too, they're giving them because they've seen the criticism from folks on, the double standard on The Rock and the language he gets to use and the things he gets away with and how he can go long on his promos. Well, it's a double standard for Cody because he's another part of the fucking main event mix. So now they're realizing that if you let the main event guys, that's what I said before, talk to some adults a little bit more. If you let the main event guys that can do it and get away with it and make it all make sense, they can use a little more language or they can talk a little more fucking sharply and don't let every goddamn jackleg up and down the card from first match to last do the same shit until it is devalued. These are the guys, the main eventers, and Roman Reigns is in that group. They're the ones that need to be using the language and doing the whatever the fuck they want to do. They can come out there and take a shit in the ring. Drawing ratings like this in this era and fucking attention and their premium live event, goddamn, they don't even do pay-per-view anymore per se, but you know what I'm telling you, getting eyeballs and money, selling tickets. These are the guys that need to be doing shit like that. That's my point. And at this point, even if Cody does get workshoppy, the people are not going to... He was dusty-ish again. Dusty with a goddamn thesaurus. I can hear it. I can see in my mind's eye.
Dusty if he memorized everything he was going to say over and over again before he went out there. That's the problem. And Cody is the most over babyface there. But especially with the kind of stuff The Rock's doing, where he has a minute where he's a killer heel, and then like the other 9 minutes, he'll be telling jokes and getting people to laugh and cheer him. Cody risks turning some fans right now when he hasn't had that issue like he had in AEW in WWE. It may not happen right away. But
he ain't going to, because now he's the best actor in a fucking Broadway play, not the goddamn...
No, he's not the best actor in the play. He's in the best play, and he's the lead actor. That's the difference.
Yeah, well, there you have it.
But, but that's the thing. The Rock is doing stuff, even though he's the heel, where he's causing fans to cheer him. It's a choice. He doesn't have to do that. If he just went out there and did the killer heel stuff, it would work right now. Everything would work. But he's choosing to do stuff that's going to get him cheers while Cody's going the other route. He cried last week on TV. You didn't see that. And now it's this. The story stuff is him finishing his story is becoming less intriguing to me than the continuing drama and adventures of the Bloodline and Roman and The Rock.
I think he made a good comeback here to an evisceration that The Rock gave him and stands his ground as he for the younger people. Instead of the kick ass, instead of being Dusty out there with the fucking steel toed boot or whatever, he's going to be more meaningful about this. And, but at the same time, he got the zingers in, and a lot of people are not going to remember that he was potentially over theatrical, but instead that he said the word dick and got bleeped for asshole and whatever the fuck.
For the first time in a long time, maybe, I can't remember in WWE him doing it before, he wore an all black suit, black shirt, black jacket. I mean, everything was black. Any thoughts on that? I mean, he's the top babyface going into WrestleMania. All of a sudden, it was a noticeably different look.
I saw his suit, but he's always immaculately dressed. But maybe in this way, he wanted to subliminally give the message that he's going to be a little darker going forward. Or maybe that was just what Brandy picked out for him. I don't fucking know.
Now, here's the other issue with this segment. This is the 9 o'clock hour. When this segment ended, I started doing some math in my head of who else could be left to be on this show, and I kind of lost my interest in the rest of the show.
Well, there you go. And that was the problem, is that Gunther and Sami Zayn had a confrontation / contract signing. And they talked to each other and then walked off from each other. And all I was thinking during this was we could have had Brock Lesnar against Gunther. If fucking Brock just could have goddamn not answered the phone for Vince or fucking acquiesced to any of his goddamn requests.
Or not had a urinal fetish.
It's... If he had a urinal fetish, he would have a fetish for going into bathrooms and hugging urinals. That's not the way you would say that.
I'm going to call it a urinal fetish because it's quite funny.
Well...
Oh my God, look at that urinal. Oh.
Look at that urinal.
Oh, Sable, come here.
And he had Johnny Cakes for dinner last night. So then, the rest of that, they had a 1-minute Punk training video because he's going to be in Philadelphia at WrestleMania. You can't have WrestleMania in Philadelphia without Phil. And he's going to be in Chicago next week on Raw. And I got speech fatigue on Drew McIntyre and Seth Franklin Rollins because they talked for 10 minutes to each other and then walked off. And then the New Day wrestled Otis and Tozawa. And then the last woman standing match was the main event between Becky Lynch and Refrigerator Jax. And by 5 minutes into this confrontation, the Refrigerator had pulled out a table and slid 6 chairs into the ring. And Stacy had actually watched this live for some unknown reason and said, "Oh, you got to see this. It's rotten." But it went 20 fucking minutes, so I did not engage with this. The finish was Becky Lynch rock-bottomed, off the apron through a table and then did a leg drop off a ladder through the announce desk and won the match. So they did 2 hospitalization angles in a row as the finish of a girls' match.
There was a time in my life that if something like that had happened in wrestling, I would have gone out of my way to find that tape and see it. It sounded amazing. And you're saying this and I didn't even watch it. It just sounds ho-hum. Isn't that crazy?
Well, there's no difference in every other week. And every other show, sometimes multiple times in a show, if you're AEW, even if you're WWE.
AEW just had an I Quit match I know we're going to talk about. And then I didn't watch Rampage, but the main event, which is probably the only match I would have wanted to watch, was a no holds barred match. Willow and Chris Statlander versus Julia and Sky Blue. And then they had a street fight all over the place.
And in the same building that they just had a street fight all over the place.
That was raw. That was raw. SmackDown, the big thing is it's 2 hours. The Rock goes out there. What he does on the mic may be like, let's say 10 minutes. Although, some of the talent there may have an issue with how long he's taking on the mic. The segment may be 25 minutes.
Yeah.
But it eats up such a large portion of the show that it goes by quick. Even if it has stuff that you wouldn't really be invested in. Raw, there's got to be a better way to eat up 3 hours. because they're not going to change that. There's got to be a better way, because I tuned after Cody was there. I said, there's nothing else I want to see. Sammy versus Gunther is not a feud that excites me or a match that excites me. There had to be something else to do with Gunther. There had to be a better way to use Sammy. And God forbid Sammy ends the fucking Intercontinental title reign.
No, that's not going to.
Because that doesn't elevate him. That doesn't do anything to help anyone there.
I think there's very little chance of that, and there shouldn't be a chance of that.
Should be Braun Breaker.
One thing, boom, goes Dynamite.